2 days ago, an African-American man was killed after a white Minneapolis police officer knelt on his neck for over 7 minutes. There were other police officers in the area. Several people were standing around in horror watching as this happened. George Floyd is the man who was killed. And I say the word killed intentionally. He died, and the question is, was he killed by the police officer's restraint? Based upon what you can see in the video, it certainly looks that way to me. Many people who were standing around had their cell phones out, and this was all recorded. It's out there on social media. I first saw it yesterday. 4 officers who were involved were fired the next day. And you know why I'm reading this from Wikipedia? Because there's scant, or at least not enough information about this readily available on the interwebs. So this is the breakdown of what happened. The Federal Bureau of Investigation announced a federal civil rights investigation into the incident at the request of the Minneapolis Police Department, while the Minneapolis Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is investigating whether there were possible violations of Minnesota statutes. George Floyd was a 46-year-old African-American man, a native of Houston, Texas. He lived in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, and he worked nearby as a security guard. Derek Chauvin, 44, is the 19-year veteran of the Minneapolis Police Department, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the name. It's in French, you would say Chauvin, Chauvin. Might be Chauvin. I don't know how he says it. 44 years old, 19-year veteran of the Minneapolis Police Department. He's identified as the officer who pinned Floyd to the ground by kneeling on his neck. He has been the shooter, incidentally, in 3 officer-involved shootings, one of which was fatal, not connected to this particular incident. Tao Thao went through the police academy in 2009. He's one of the other police officers, but was not hired to a full-time position until 2012. In 2017, he was a defendant in an excessive use of force lawsuit that was settled out of court for $25,000. As of May 26th, 2 other officers who were fired as a result of this incident have not yet publicly been identified. Shortly after 8 p.m., this according to the police, shortly after 8 p.m. on May 25th, Memorial Day, Minneapolis Police Department officers responded to a forgery in progress call on Chicago Avenue South in the Powderhorn Park neighborhood of Minneapolis. According to police, Floyd was in a nearby car and appeared to be under the influence. A spokesman for the police department stated that the officers ordered him to exit the vehicle, at which he physically resisted. According to the Minneapolis police officers, those officers who were there were able to get the suspect into handcuffs and noted he appeared to be suffering medical distress. Floyd was taken to Hennepin County Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead. I want you to listen to this first audio. It's not going to be easy, but I want you to listen to it. And I'll tell you right now that I don't think we can listen to the whole 2.5 minute clip. So Cyrus, he condensed it down to about 30 seconds. But this is what was being filmed on people's phones standing in the area, watching as the police were doing this, and the police officer kneeling on his neck. Listen, I'm going to give you 30 seconds because I don't think we can take any more than that.
Please, I can't breathe. Please, man. There's some water or something. Please. I can't breathe, officer. They gonna kill me, man.
How long y'all gotta hold him down?
This is why you don't do drugs, kids. It ain't about drugs, bro. Y'all understand
that? Y'all don't gotta put y'all right.
He is human, bro.
He's in handcuffs. He's laying flat on his face on the pavement next to the car. He's already down. And the police officer is kneeling on his neck for 7 minutes while people are standing there saying, what are you doing? Play that video, Cyrus, please. The video where the people are telling the police to stop it.
Is he breathing right now? Check his pulse.
I want to have this conversation.
Check his pulse.
Okay.
Check his pulse, Tao.
Tao,
check his pulse. Tao, check his pulse, bro.
What did this do?
Bro, check his pulse, bro. You bogus, bro.
Don't do
you
drugs,
bogus.
guys.
Don't do drugs, bro. What is that? What do you think that is? You call what he doing okay?
Get back
you
on the
call what
street.
he doing okay? You call what you do. You call what he doing okay, bro.
Are you really a firefighter?
Yes,
Bro.
I am from Minneapolis.
Okay.
Bro, you call. You think that's okay?
Post.
Check his pulse.
Check his
Okay. So they watched him die. Part of the arrest was filmed by these bystanders that you heard. It was streamed on Facebook Live. When the video starts, Floyd is already pinned face down on the ground. Officer Chauvin is kneeling on his neck. Floyd repeatedly tells Chauvin, "Please, I can't breathe," while moaning and groaning and sobbing. A bystander tells the police, "You got him down, let him breathe." Yes, obviously. He's not a threat to anybody. After Floyd says, "I'm about to die," Chauvin tells him to relax. The police ask Floyd, "What do you want?" Floyd repeats, "I can't breathe." Floyd continues, "Please, the knee on my neck, I can't breathe." The policemen taunt Floyd and tell him to get up and get in the car, to which Floyd replies, "I will, I can't move." He also cries out, "Mama." He protests, "My stomach hurts, my neck hurts, everything hurts." He asks for some water. The police do not audibly respond to Floyd. Floyd begs, "Don't kill me." A bystander points out that Floyd is bleeding from the nose. Another bystander points out he's not even resisting arrest. It's all on Wikipedia. And I know, Wikipedia, come on. It's there and it's all cited. And I can't keep reading this. I can't. This is wrong. This is outrageous. This is disgusting. This is infuriating. I just thank God that we have cell phones that can capture this kind of brutality. Cyrus, when you saw the video, what was your reaction to it?
I've watched it six times now. The first time I was ill. I got ill. Yeah, it is so disgusting and awful. I don't have words for it.
It didn't have to happen.
No, there's no excuse for this.
No.
And these 4 officers being fired, that is not enough. Right now, there's protests. And of course, the protests are going to turn violent, which doesn't help anyone. But at the same time, I mean, this man is
He's dead.
It wouldn't happen if he was white.
I
have black friends that have shown me pictures of a week ago armed white men storming a state capitol. And looking very violent and yelling at police officers. No shots were fired.
Connected to this story?
No, it's the same kind of. Look what they're telling me. Like, look what white people can do to cops, and look what happens to
I see.
black people when they deal with
the unequal
cops.
treatment that's given.
That's right.
I see these pictures. I'm sure maybe these are the kind you're talking about, where you've got the white militia people, the militia guys, for example, and they're carrying AR-15s, or they're packing and they're walking around in public with guns. And what can you imagine what would ensue if black men did the same thing, walking around with guns? It would be absolutely different. They would be immediately. Well, I mean, I don't even like to speculate, but it would be completely a different reaction just because of their skin color.
Yes.
And it is wrong. And there's nothing more I can say about this, everybody, except that this is a story. This is yet another story of this type of racist abuse of black people. Nothing new. We've heard this many times before. This has been in the news for a long time. Heck, I remember. I was a kid in the 60s. I lived through the race riots in Southern California. In fact, I remember as a child, it seems to me I was about 5 years old, and I remember my dad saying, "You know what, we need to get going over to your grandma's house," which is out of the air, because we lived at the time in downtown Los Angeles, near downtown Los Angeles. And when race riots were starting up, that's you don't want to be in that area. So I remember even just dimly from my childhood when things like this. So it's not as though this is something new, but what infuriates me is that nothing seems to be done about it. And here now we have another dead man, George Floyd, may he rest in peace, because of this type of pernicious, evil racism that exists. How's that for a pro-life issue? That's part of the pro-life movement right there, if you ask me. I'm just going to leave it at that. 888-914-9149. I can't let this story pass without speaking about it with you. And we have the links to the information if you haven't seen this yet. Brace yourself. So let's go to Ralph in Payson, Arizona. Hi, Ralph. Thanks for calling in today.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about this man kneeling on the man's neck in Minneapolis. Well,
yes.
You got the instigator-in-chief in the White House. He instigates this stuff.
Who is this now?
He's a racist. The White House. You got President Trump, and he instigates stuff like that.
Okay. So you're saying that this is caused by Donald Trump instigating that. Is that right?
Well, yeah. He instigated, what about South Carolina, North Carolina last year? The riots up in Michigan, not complete
in Charlottesburg,
riots,
Virginia?
The storming of the state. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, how do you explain this, Ralph? I don't know if you remember James Byrd Jr. He was an African-American man. He was dragged to his death behind a pickup truck. This was in Jasper, Texas. It happened in 1998 during the presidency of Bill Clinton. That was a massive story when it happened. Grotesque racism behind that. And they dragged Richard Byrd to his death. And did you blame Bill Clinton for that? Was he an instigator?
No.
Okay, so the fact that there was a crime like that against a black man, you're not saying that it was the result of Bill Clinton being in office, and we could come up with many different examples for any president in office. The fact that you're saying that this is the result of Donald Trump instigating this, I don't buy it. Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't buy it.
I know you don't, but you're trying to out-Catholic a Catholic is what you're trying to do.
Am I? How's that?
Yep. How? Just last hour you were talking about abortion, insinuating without saying it that we should vote for Trump.
No, it didn't say that. Didn't insinuate it, didn't say it. Okay, I get the Trump hatred, or maybe I should say I don't get the Trump hatred, but I'm aware of it. I don't want to go into that briar patch because there's no upside for anybody. But I'll leave you to your thoughts on that, Ralph. Thank you for listening to the program, and thank you for calling me today. Let's go to California now and talk to Chris. Hello, Chris. Welcome.
Hey, Patrick. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
Good. I wanted to call in support of law enforcement and let you know that it seems sort of hypocritical what you're doing here. I'm very Catholic, too. I totally agree with you guys. Racism of any kind is not healthy. It's not good. Murder is not good. All of that being said, and that pushed aside, you said in the last segment that this was a family show, and a lot of families are Catholic and are all in law enforcement and are listening to you paint a picture of police officers being racist and murderers, and their children could be listening. And I really feel that the broad picture that the last caller had mentioned that you're painting, it really does a disservice, especially when you guys just got caught up in giving out false information that was incorrect, and you're going on the gut feeling of what most people do in a situation when they do not know what goes on behind the scenes in law enforcement and in crime and criminal activity. 9 times out of 10, you have not seen anything other than what is snapshotted on a 40-second to a minute and a half video on someone's phone nowadays. And law enforcement, as many of them will tell you, there are bad seeds. There are. However, not the high percentage of them are. Most
Okay,
of them
let me just jump in, Chris. Number one, I appreciate the fact that you took time to call me. I disagree with your take on my take. Okay? This is America. We can have differences of opinion. If you've listened to this show for any length of time, you know that I go out of my way to pay my respects to law enforcement. And I have great respect for them and great gratitude to them. And I know that they are in the majority, the vast majority most likely, they're very honorable and upright people in their line of work. And so I will take a backseat to no one when it comes to my gratitude and my public support for law enforcement. And I absolutely disagree with your incorrect, she hung up. I absolutely disagree with the portrayal of my remarks on the program today about this outrageous story as painting with a broad brush or being disrespectful to law enforcement people. That's absolutely not true. I'm reacting to this particular situation. And this particular situation, by the way, which is amply videoed by multiple people, over 10 minutes worth of video. You judge for yourself. She can't hear me now because she hung up on me. Judge for yourself whether or not this was not an excessive use of force on the part of a white police officer. And as for the comment about getting caught up in false information, no, this is the report here. Well, the commentary here had to do with, as this story is unfolding, how people are, for example, that person that posted the picture that showed a very similar looking man wearing that red hat saying, "Wait, make whites great again." The unavoidable racial connotations of this situation are a part of the story. Now, thankfully, that police officer is not the same person who was pictured in that photograph that's on Twitter. I'm glad that all came out. And if there were any agenda here, that we would not mention that to you. But there is no agenda here. We're going to bring you the facts as they are. So let it be known here and now that I have tremendous respect for and admiration for and gratitude to law enforcement people. And I simply am not going to sit by and listen to somebody say that I'm doing something other than simply reporting this case. Let's continue. Let's go to, Ted. Let's go to Ted in Santa Cruz County. Hello, Ted. Welcome.
Good morning, Brother Patrick.
Thank you.
Patrick, I just want to say that I do come from a very, very strong Catholic family with several members serving in law enforcement with the Los Angeles Police Department. And I do not, and my family does not feel that you paint a broad stroke against any kind of law enforcement. Now, I will say, granted, there are things that I do not agree with you, and that's right, and that's fine.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
That is no reason for me to say and my family to turn you off or turn off relevant radio stations, because we do get a lot of good information, and I do respect and appreciate your positions and your thoughts and your opinions, and it's very helpful. And I think folks that threaten to cut relevant radio or state that they're not going to listen to your radio station are overreacting. So I just want to express my support for you, Cyrus, and everyone at Relevant Station. And people need to just relax and chill a bit and get back to praying and listening to God and respecting others and not jumping to conclusions.
Well,
that's what I want to say.
That's thoughtful of you. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time, Ted.
Yes, just keep up the great work. And again, I don't always agree with you, but that's fine.
That's
fine. But it's not enough. It's not for me. I'm not going to turn you off.
I'm glad, Ted. I'm really glad.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the phone call. I'm sure Cyrus and everybody else does as well. Thank you. Let's face it. These topics, even though we don't have to talk about them very often, when we do talk about them, they naturally engender strong emotions. I mean, I had a difficult time even reading the entire account of the event because of my emotions. So I don't fault anyone for having strong emotions about this. I really don't. But I offer you a humble plea to not be afraid of talking about situations like this just because it might gore the wrong ox. Somebody's sacred cow might be gored by this. And when politics is the background for, you heard a caller just a minute ago, well, the instigator in chief, he's the one. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Where people immediately assign blame to a politician simply because something bad happens and they don't like the politician, so they use this as a stick to beat the politician with. It's happened on both sides of the aisle, both parties. I've seen it before. So I'm requesting that we have these at times difficult and tense topics that we may have to talk about from time to time, but to do it as best we can clearly, without the rancor and without delving into the politics and things, if it's at all avoidable. Comments are rolling in on Twitter, and you can send me one by going to @PatrickMadrid on Twitter. I'd love to see what you think about everything that the show says. Bill Moody, a charter member of Team Taco, says, interesting to hear how different people hear and interpret the exact same message. Some differences result from emotion and human frailty, but I suspect large amounts is a measure of poor education, which should teach students to read and listen critically. Interesting. Mag Nay on Twitter, NEY, says, black or white, this man was human. We need to pray for the world so we can see everybody as brothers and sisters, regardless of color. The White House has nothing to do with this recent events. We have seen people who have been underground with this racism. We as a society are better than this. Bill Moody also says, between your emotion-caused pauses and that electrical blip, we've been giving poor Alexa a tough time this morning. I imagine so. Well, just feed her a little snack and she should be okay. New York Catholic Radio says, Patrick, a close family member is a police officer. You said nothing wrong and quickly corrected the record regarding the hat. There are hundreds of thousands of LEOs in the USA. These are bad apples in every profession. Truth is truth. Forgive me, New York Catholic Radio. First of all, I appreciate your comment, although I don't know what that LEO stands for in context here, so I'm not sure what to say about that. Let's see. Jessica M. Mesa says,
law
Patrick,
enforcement. What is officers?
Say that again.
You just go on. Sorry.
What?
Sorry. A-Log knows what that means.
Oh, okay. Tell me, what does it mean?
Well, LEO is basically law enforcement officer. We had a person who called about it, and I didn't know what LEO meant as well. So just to correct let the audience know, LEO is law enforcement officer.
Law enforcement officer. Got it. Well, thank you for interjecting that. I appreciate that. Jessica M. Meza says on Twitter, I don't think it's a good idea to be talking about the situation right now. You're making mistakes that are inflaming people. You're not being helpful today. And she gives me a frowny face on that one. Okay. Let's see. Marie on Twitter says, Patrick, I viewed the unedited view clip. Joe has word finding and logical thinking impairments. He doesn't finish thoughts and seems resigned to his problem. Well, I'm not entirely sure what that refers to. And so on and so forth. I know what that is. That's referring to Joe Biden. Separate topic. I do read and appreciate all the comments that you make on Twitter. If you want to send me something, and my address there is @PatrickMadrid. Let's go back to the phones. Kurt, listening in Nevada, is calling. Hi, Kurt. Welcome to the program.
Patrick, thanks for talking to me. I
Sure.
think you're awesome, first of all.
Thank you.
I'm a police officer, and I'm a Catholic, and I like to think that my faith guides my profession. And just by way of background, I teach crisis intervention for our new officers and some of our old ones. So I'm coming at this from a Catholic, everybody is a human. In fact, I tell new officers, if you just remember on every call you go on, first, make the scene safe. Second, remember that you're dealing with a human being. So that's where I'm coming from. But having said that, the hat thing in social media is a perfect example of Churchill saying what a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth can get its pants on.
Right.
It incites, not that you did, but that sort of thing. We're all victims of it, whatever side you're on. If someone can put something up that reinforces sort of a confirmation bias thing, and all of a sudden
Right.
it's, you know, grab the pitchforks. And as cops, nobody, not you, not anybody except that gentleman's family, nobody hates to see this more than other police officers, period. You asked a question a little while ago. You said, you know, just why? Why would he, just from a human standpoint, why would he do that?
Help me understand
Why
that,
would he-
because it's so revolting to me to see somebody do that to a helpless man. And I'm scrambling, trying to figure out what would motivate that.
Well, again, I wasn't there, and we sort of have a thing as police officers is we definitely don't judge one another until there's an investigation, because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Every single call is different. Every set of, like our body cameras, you know, they show one angle. They don't show context. They don't show what's off to the left periphery and the right, and
Right.
what's going on behind us. And I'm not at all defending this at all. It looks horrible. I watched it myself, and my sensibilities are troubled by it. But again, I don't know. When you said that, the first thing that popped in my head was how people would attack our church, and still to this day do, and have for a long time, over the actions of a very few people or priests who did things that were absolutely heinous, that the rest of us go, you're a priest, how could you do that?
Right.
So I just think before we, if you take, and I wish I had the numbers, I was out running when I heard this, so I stopped to call you. I wish I had the numbers, but they're worth looking into. The sheer number of police contacts in a given day versus the number of those contacts that turn out to be violent, let alone have someone die. It's staggering. There's millions and millions of contacts going on all the time, and the vast majority of them are resolved without anyone getting hurt and certainly killed.
Right.
So
Thankfully.
I guess I'm just maybe preaching a little perspective, take a deep breath, and let's wait. I just saw that a cop was charged with murder in New York City. People often say, my son's a doctor, and one of his fellow doctors was arguing with him and saying cops never get charged with murder. Well, they do.
Yeah.
And if that's what happened here, I think I saw that they already have fired this guy. I don't know if I saw that.
Yeah, let me
correctly,
jump
but-
in with that, Kurt. You're making a lot of great points. Thank you, first of all. And I appreciate your perspective. Being in law enforcement, you see it from a different side of things than I do, and most of the rest of us. I'm reminded of the Covington boys controversy a year and a half ago, when everybody saw the brief video, which at first made it appear as though these Covington boys were harassing a Native American man who was beating a drum and chanting, and people were in an uproar and condemning these kids and all that. And then when you saw the longer video, the much longer video, and different perspectives, then you realize, oh, it's exactly the opposite. It was the boys who were being harassed by this guy and others, and they weren't doing anything wrong. But it sure looked that way in that first, very small, very short video. So I definitely remember saying, wait a minute, let's look at all the details here. And the details exonerated them. So that's a very good point that you're making. The other thing is that when I look at a video like this, which is in this case roughly 10 minutes long, and I see all the bystanders, they're not shouting epithets at the police officers. Yeah, there's a bad word or two here or there, but they're not like verbally attacking the police officers. They're just asking him to show some kind of mercy on this man who's face down, handcuffed behind his back. My impression is that if you're prone on the ground and you've got police all around you and you're handcuffed, you're not a threat to anybody. So I keep coming back to this question. Maybe you can help shed some light on this. Not that you would ever do this, but why would a police officer kneel on the man's neck for 7 minutes when he's pleading for air, can't breathe, and so on? What is a plausible explanation for why a police officer would do that? Because I just can't come up with one.
Well, here's what I can tell you. 4 days ago, my team and I had a fairly similar situation. I don't know if you've heard of a condition called excited delirium, but it's often brought about by different things, but lately by really, really bad narcotics, similar to PCP, what that would do to people maybe back in the 80s. So we were actually fighting with this guy, and we finally got handcuffs on him, and he was on the ground, and there were 4 of us, and it took us a very long time.
Like he had superhuman strength.
Absolutely. And if you want to look up excited delirium, it's terrifying.
Okay.
Once we got the handcuffs on him, he began kicking like a mule. So then we had to find a way to restrain his legs. The whole time this is happening, I'm reminding my partners to keep him off of his stomach, to try to keep him on his side, because we've learned through training and experience that having people on their proned out on their belly during a struggle, and even once they start to come down, they can easily have positional asphyxia and die.
Oh.
So that's something that law enforcement's trained in. So even in the midst of that, we were still trying to be conscious of that. Once a person is no longer resisting, and certainly if a person is saying to me, please, I can't breathe, that will get my attention immediately. Again, I was not there with those officers, and I'm not going to judge them right now. The facts aren't in. There's been no investigation. But to me, like everyone else that saw it, it looks bad. But
final question, Kurt, before I have to go. As I read the news reports, the police department fired these 4 officers upon reviewing the video. And do you think that was just a perfunctory move, or do you think they said, oh, my gosh, you never should have done this, even though there was no investigation that was done yet? The fact that they fired them, is there anything to be read into that?
Well, I read into that the same thing about the hat is it's reactive, and they have to do something. They're going to come under an intense barrage if they do nothing. But typically what departments do is place officers immediately on admin leave, and they don't let them back on the street until there's been an investigation. So I guess, the union will get involved, and they'll say, hey, let's investigate, et cetera.
Right.
So
right.
I think that's more politics and reaction to the social narrative. But anyway, I think you are doing a fine job, sir. You always do. I listen to you almost every day, and I appreciate you a lot.
Thank you, Kurt. And I appreciate your encouragement. Thank you very much. We'll go from Kurt now to Frank, listening in Philadelphia. Hi, Frank. Welcome.
Good morning, Patrick. You kind of answered what I was going to say. But I'm a former cop myself. When I was taught in the academy and how we practiced it, once a person's cuffed, and most people do not want to be handcuffed, and there is some resistance to that, some small and some greater. But once you're handcuffed, the threat is over, and you mentioned that. And I did not see the video. I heard on Tucker last night and in the radio this morning. But once he's handcuffed, the threat is over. I've had guys in the back of my car where they kick the window out one time, so they can be a threat with their feet. But still, if they're afraid of him running away, he's face down. Put your foot on top of his back. That's it. There's no reason. I cannot understand why he's on his neck. Again, a threat of running away. Put your foot on top of his back. Simple as that. Also, we were taught once they're handcuffed, because when people see cops, it causes attention, attraction. Yeah. They're handcuffed. Put them back in your car or back in a wagon, and you'll leave the area as soon as possible. I don't know why he wasn't put in the back of a car and transported. Why it took so long, I have no idea. Yeah, I didn't see the video. Have you seen it? Was there cars available? I have no idea.
All I know is that there were other police officers there. So it was not just the one officer. There were what appeared to be maybe as many as 4 or 5 other officers right there. And I'm guessing they had their own cars. I don't think that many foot beats. I mean, there was a car available. He should have been transported, boom, get him out of there as soon as possible. Good point. That I don't know. But that's a good point.
And Patrick, this is no reflection on Donald Trump. This was an idiot person making a bad decision, and he should pay for it. Simple as that. I believe, based on what I hear, he should be arrested and charged. Simple as that.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm like many people, probably like you. I was emotionally affected by what I saw, and it just seemed so outrageous that I needed to comment on it. And as we get more information, we'll certainly report that. But thanks for taking time. Yeah, in fact, we posted it so everybody can see.
Was the guy laying face down or on his back?
Face down.
Okay, another reason, you're laying face down. You're handcuffed behind your back. You're not a threat.
Well, that's my
Simple
thinking.
as that.
I mean, I don't think I'd be a threat to anybody if I were face down with my hands cuffed behind my back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have a great day, Patrick. You have a great program.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Frank. God bless you. Let's go back to the phones. Adelie in Fresno, California. You are on the air. Welcome, and thank you for calling.
Hi, Patrick. Thank you for letting me comment. I heard some of the previous callers, and I just wanted to respectfully disagree with them in that, the video itself does show it's very, very hard to watch, and it actually, does bring about a lot of different emotions. Watching a gentleman literally, plead for his life, and other third-party people that have no relation to this gentleman see the situation as it's unfolding, and pleading with officers as well to remove the officer to remove his knee off of the gentleman. I mean, he passes before them, and I think it's very important to talk about these issues, because if we don't speak about them, then we're also allowing it to let it continue to happen. So I do appreciate the fact that you talk about these type of topics on the Catholic radio show. I'm an avid listener, and while I do enjoy listening to learning about our Catholic faith, I think it's important to also talk about these types of issues as well.
Thank you.
Another point that I just wanted to make was that, when you look at the video, you don't see the officers scrambling like they don't have the situation under control. They look very relaxed. They look like they're just kind of waiting for something. And the gentleman himself, I mean, he doesn't, at what I viewed, it doesn't seem like he's still continuing to pose a threat to the officer. So I just, in my point of view, it just does seem like excessive, and I know that it's being investigated, and hopefully the truth will come out, and there'll be justice served. I appreciate everyone's views. I just wanted to say that I disagree, and I don't think at all that you were being disrespectful in any way, and I also appreciate what our law enforcement officers do every day, but unfortunately, these situations do happen a lot. Does happen a lot, and when it's racially driven, I mean, we're going to have a lot of people with different opinions. But I just think that
thank you,
this is very unfortunate and very sad. So, but thank you for speaking about it, and I just wanted to give that quick comment.
That's kind of you. Thank you. I appreciate the call. Let's go quickly to Anthony in New Jersey. Hi, Anthony. I don't have much time, but welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Patrick?
Good, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for taking my call. I tuned in the show a little late, so I didn't really get to hear, your point on what's going on. But I'm pretty sure it was very reasonable what you said and everything. And I just wanted to get this message out. I think with everything going on, we all have to examine our hearts. It's the lack of communication with God that I feel like has been driving the world to do these crazy things, whether it was a cop or not, whether it was a normal person or not. What happened was ridiculous, and I saw the video. I'm shocked, and, that's the only thing that I can come up with. Like, where is God in people's hearts, Like, it's like, drives me crazy. But I'm very thankful for the show, and I'm grateful to hear you. I hear you almost every day.
Thanks,
and thank you. You are guiding me with my faith, and I'm very appreciative.
Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate your kind words, and thanks for listening to the program. I'll be right back with Hour 3 right after this quick timeout. Please don't go anywhere.
For more of The Patrick Madrid Show, visit relevantradio.com/Patrick.